In 2018, one of the most tragic trafficking incidents occurred in Nepal. 33 children were abducted, basically. The parents were duped into thinking that they were sending their children to a good school. And what you're seeing in the picture behind me is actually the situation those children were being kept in a fake children's home en route to being sold into sex slavery. The girls were going to be sold into sex slavery in other big cities and even abroad. Their passports were being made to be shipped out to places like Dubai and Hong Kong. And the boys were going to be sold for their organs to be harvested. And you see behind me is the situation. They were being kept 6 to 8 children in one bed, in a bunk bed environment. Dark, filthy, malnourished, abused. Not sexually abused, but they would have been very soon if we hadn't got to them. That's the good part of the story. The story has a really happy ending. You're going to hear the rest of that in a minute, but I'm going to talk to you about how WIN is doing emancipation. In the first part, you heard about ecclesia. The foundation of all transformation is allowing that presence and principles to transform people from the inside out. And the next step is setting them free from slavery and from oppression. There's the 4 E's of WIN: ecclesia, emancipation, education, and empowerment. Emancipation, ending sex trafficking and abuse, one child and one village at a time. Jesus came to set the captives free. In Isaiah 61 is a prophetic word about what Jesus would do, and then in Luke 4 he reiterates it, and he gives his mission statement, includes setting the captives free, liberating those who are oppressed. Slavery is one of the worst human tragedies occurring today, and here's some statistics that show just how bad it is. 1 in 10 children are forced into child labor. Now, the way that happens is that they are, like, for example, we have a lot of brick kilns. Especially in India, there's the children end up working alongside of their parents, whether that's in brick kilns, trying to eke out a living, whether that's laboring in fields, doing agriculture work. Sometimes they end up just babysitting their younger siblings. Instead of going to school, they have to babysit so that mom and dad can go out and do the labor work. And 2/3 of the world's 36 million trafficking victims are from Asia. Most of the challenges there, whether it's challenges in regard to freeing slaves, whether it's challenges in regarding to establishing ecclesia or education or development, empowerment, all of it, there's so many people in that region of Asia, and that is why WIN is always primarily going to be focusing, but other parts of the world too, on liberating the slaves where the need is the greatest and where the people are the most people are there to reach. Here's some of the ways that WIN is transforming lives, transforming whole communities, starting with ecclesia and then moving into emancipation, freeing the slaves. Children are the worst off when it comes to slavery. The worst thing in the world is for children to be enslaved. And so we started Blue Haven Children's Home about in the year 2005. There you see Ricky with the pink shirt in the middle, the one that looks a little bit older than the others. She is amazing leader and visionary. So Ricky has led that children's home all of these years and has done an amazing job. Look at the beautiful girls that she has raised and that we've all raised together. Here's the whole crowd. I think we've raised about 33 kids. Most of them are now in high school, college. Wonderful, wonderful young people. These kids came out of orphan, semi-orphan, or abandonment situations or extreme poverty situations. And here's an example of how some of them came to us. This is the back row is how 3 of our girls came to us in the year 2005. And just about a year and a half later, look at the transformation in these little girls. And they've just gone from fear and hopelessness and malnutrition to joy and positive and just hope and excitement about life. And that's exactly what they are today. Just fantastic young people with a bright, bright future. All of them know English and they all are following the Lord. Neha is one of our kids in our children's home. We were able to rescue out of an extreme poverty situation. But when we rescued her, we did not know that just nearby in a different home in her village was a widow and her little girl. And that widow was extremely poor, and she was also illiterate, and we didn't know about this family, or we would have rescued this other little girl whose name was Pooja. And I have her picture there kind of as a ghost image, because here's what happened to Pooja. We rescued Neha, and she had wonderful, is one of our top students now in the Blue Haven Children's Home. But Pooja, we never knew about her. Well, one day the trafficker ladies came to Pooja's mom, and they masqueraded as officials of a really good school. And so they told Pooja's mom, they said, oh, well, we'll send your daughter to a really good school. You just, sign this document and we'll take her and we'll put her in a good boarding school and she'll have a good education. Well, the mother believed him. She was tricked. And she sent Pooja with these ladies, and she never saw her daughter again. What we heard, as eventually she realized something was wrong, and she started to try to track down, where is my daughter? And she found out her daughter had been sold to a brothel, and allegedly had eventually committed suicide by throwing herself off the 4th story of the building. We don't know if that's true. But it was a tragic ending. But that's what happens when we don't get to these kids that have either been trafficked or before they're trafficked. See, if we had been able to know about that mother, we could have taught her, don't be tricked by these people. They're going to trick you. And here's what you watch out for, so you don't let your daughter be abducted. We also support a children's home. It's not our direct we didn't directly found this one, but we helped support it. And this young man was an unwanted child, and he was, when his mother gave birth, she died in childbirth, and he was tied to his mother, and both of their bodies were thrown into the irrigation ditch, and he was thrown in there with her to be carried along in the water and drowned. And someone miraculously found this boy alive, tied to the corpse of his mother, and was able to rescue him into the children's home. And he's a wonderful young man today. Combating human trafficking is also one of the things that emancipation-wise that we do. These are some of the girls right here that you're looking at. We can't show their faces, that were rescued, that we rescued out of trafficking, that had been trafficked into brothels, and then our team was able to collaborate with the police, and we actually trained the police force how to do this. They couldn't figure out how to do it in the city where we are. This is actual closed caption camera footage from inside the brothels when our team and the police would actually go in and make a bust. This is undercover footage where we had team members trained as Johns, as customers, and they were able to get actual pictures of transactions being made where the girl was being basically sold for sex. And so our team was honored. Right there you see two of our key leaders, the two key leaders of Northern India, David and Alok. And they're in the picture, they're on the right-hand side of that table. David having a kind of a greenish shirt, and Alok with a blue tie and a white shirt. They are the key leaders of WIN in Northern India. And look at this, the police force of a city of 3.5 million people are honoring our team for helping them solve the trafficking problem of the city. This was an amazing accomplishment to see this happen. Now we're also preventing the trafficking. See, it's one thing to get kids out once they're abducted. It's tragic that they ever had to go through that. Their lives are in shambles. It takes years to restore them. Some of them never do get restored to a normal life. So actually stopping the trafficking before it happens is really, really where it's at. And so that's what we've really invested in there. And so to do that, we've actually created a movie that teaches the parents what to watch out for. It actually shows the trafficker coming and it's deceiving the dad into sending his boy, in this case, into a labor and a sex trafficking situation. It's all in the native language. We made it all like the native, in the native style and Bollywood style a little bit. And they love it. And they realize how they can keep their kids safe. Here's another way we're teaching them to keep their kids safe, is we have a drama team that is going out there village to village that is teaching the people what to watch out for. And they're not only doing anti-trafficking, this drama team is also teaching basically the ecclesia biblical values. They're teaching people, don't be alcoholic, don't beat your wife, don't abuse your kids. They're teaching them to have a self-esteem and to have hope for the future, teaching them health and hygiene. But the most important thing that this drama team is doing is teaching them how to not let their kids get trafficked. In over 800 villages per year, we are inoculating them against trafficking, domestic abuse, and alcoholism. So far, we have prevented over 1 million children from being trafficked or enslaved. And in those communities that we've targeted, child labor has been reduced by 90% and child trafficking completely ended. So back to that slide I had behind me for a while of the kids in that dark, dingy, with the 6 to 8 kids packed into one bed. What happened there? Well, our key leader, WINS leader of Nepal, is Amar, and he's the tall guy you see there. And this guy, you want to get on his bad side. He's an ex-gangster himself, but he was a good gangster. He was kind of a Robin Hood. And anybody that was getting beat up or that was getting oppressed, he would go to their aid. Well, when we discovered him a few years ago, he was the one that went out and did tons and tons of relief work for us when the earthquake hit Nepal. Well, then when we heard about these kids that had been abducted, the village came to Amar. And so he went out there 3 days journey over very rough roads and found these kids out there and was able to go and get them out of that situation. In this picture, he's actually leading them out from that fake children's home where they were being held basically hostage. He got this guy to let them go because this guy knew that he was better off to let them go than to resist. He'd have gotten beat up if he'd have resisted. And so he let the kids go, and later we got the police out there and they arrested him. And as far as we know, that trafficker is in jail right now. So that was really good. And then Amar brought the kids back to their home, and I got to go and visit them last year. We had a wonderful time. I got to visit these kids. We got to hand out some school materials to them. And right now, WIN is supporting these kids so that they can go to school. This is very important. When you rescue trafficking victims, you have to come in behind them with some kind of help. You can't just leave them. Because the parents are just as poor and illiterate. I mean, they know one thing to watch out for. But if they're desperate, those kids are still going to be at risk if you don't help them some tangible way. So WIN is now supporting the education for these kids. They're all going to a really good school. And the only sad part now is when I went and visited those kids The ones that we rescued are now going to the really good school, and we've like doubled the number of kids in the school just by putting these kids in there. But there's so many other kids hanging over the fence wishing that they could go to that school. And they're all at risk of any kind of abuse, trafficking, and poverty until they get a good education, which is our next part of the WIN model. Last year, again, rescued another boy. We heard of Bishal. He had been, again, abducted and taken to India, and there he had been put into slave labor. And here in this picture, you're seeing Bishal. Look how sad and hopeless he looks. And behind him are basically his slave drivers. This man and woman own an apple orchard in the mountains in India, and they wanted free labor. And so they bought him from the traffickers and were forcing him to carry 50-pound boxes of apples up and down the mountains until he would collapse. And so then they were abusing him and everything. And so this was real, genuine slavery. Amr went in there and he confronted this couple. Of course, they had no choice. He was Amr's gonna beat them up if if they resist him. So Amr got this boy out, and there he is. And Gaurav, one of our key leaders in India, was a very big part of this rescue, helping Amr to make this happen. And look at Bishal there, how happy he is. This is our WIN victory sign, victory, win. And so they are celebrating victory that Bishal has been rescued. And now, guess what? The latest news, I just heard this 2 days ago from Amr. The government of Nepal is going to give this kid a 6-year full scholarship to a really good vocational training school. He wants to learn how to repair cars. So they're going to send him to a really good engineering vocational training program. Bishal's got it made. He's got a good future now. These are some of the things that we're doing that is transforming whole communities, starting with individual lives and growing from there. Creating freedom, liberty, liberating the captives is one of the most important parts of bringing transformation to a community.